Welcome to the Stay or Go podcast, where we're changing the dialogue around divorce so that no woman ever stays in her marriage out of fear. Get ready to dispel myths, learn life-changing tools, and build a solid foundation in yourself from which to make your decision. And now your host, me, Britta Jo. Hi, how's it going today, babe? I am really excited to drop in with you about today's episode. But before we do, I got a couple of things straight out of the gate that I'm also very delighted. I think you guys can probably hear it in my voice. I've got a couple of things that I'm just excited to share with you before we get to the actual episode. And the first is that the gorgeous alter ego design workbook that I mentioned a couple episodes ago with my bestie, Quinn Otrera, is done. Yay. It's been on my list. Any of you that have listened to the episode, if you haven't, by the way, listen to that episode, definitely go give a listen to it before you go do this workbook. But we dropped in on that episode. She told me, I want to share this topic. I was all in. I was like, yes, tell me more. And then when she sent it over to me, I realized this is an incredible piece of content. It is so beautiful, so much incredible work here. And no, I don't just want to drop this. I want to design this and make it look really beautiful and amazing. And so I did. I got to spend time this week dropping in, playing in that space. As many of you know that have known me for a long time on the podcast, one of my favorite parts of being an entrepreneur is the graphic design. I love playing with the art, the fonts, the formatting. It's just, it is a pure delight for me. And this one, especially this workbook, was really fun for me because not only was it taking all of Quinn's materials, which, oh my gosh, I loved. And I'll talk a little bit about why I loved them so much in a second, but I was getting to put all of that into a template created by someone that I fangirl and adore, Jess Jacques. She runs an amazing company called The Passive Rebel that does brand design. And I've worked with her in the past. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Love you so much, Jess. And so it was just a pure delight for me to get to be working with these two pieces of content from these two women and getting to combine them and create this gorgeous workbook that I'm going to be, that's going to be releasing today over on Substack for my paid subscribers. So it was a total blast making it. So much gratitude for all of my podcast listeners who listen every week. And a couple weeks ago, were like, where is it? And I'm like, give me time. Let me have my way with this. Let me have my way with this. I've had my way, and I'm very delighted and excited to bring it to all of you. Quinn and I have actually been playing with alter ego work these last couple weeks. For those of you that may be new to the podcast and are like, who is Quinn? Quinn is not only my bestie, my ride or die. I love her so much, but she is also my personal coach. So we went through coach training, so many years ago now, 5-6 years ago together. And she is the person that I entrust my brain to every week to clean up the parts. But we've been playing with this alter ego work of hers these last 2 weeks. And I have to say, I have really been loving the shifts that I've been seeing coming out of this work with her. And just blown away. Once again, it's just a very crazy, generous gift of her to hand this over to me to design and then get to share with my Substack subscribers. So if you are not somebody who is one of my paid Substack subscribers, now is your moment to become one, because you are not going to want to miss this workbook. And for just $11 a month, you will get access to not only that workbook, which dropped today, but also the Conscious Mind mini course that I created this year, which honestly is it's like a must-have, in my opinion, for the most basic and foundational pieces that I want every woman that listens to my work to know. When I was creating up this course and like pulling this from my archives, I was thinking, okay, there's a lot of big concepts I talk about on the podcast, big ideas, but what are the pieces that maybe I don't talk about as much anymore because they feel so natural to me? I use them all the time, but that are so fundamental. That's what my Conscious Mind mini course is for. It's available over on Substack, along with my top 10 podcast episodes list, which is one that's like, episodes that you might not think of, but that are my personal favorites. And all of my paid Substack subscribers also get to join in with me once a month on our live Q&A over there, which is actually going to be happening tomorrow on Wednesday, August 12th. So go snag your workbook and then come ready to ask me your questions on the live tomorrow. You can find the link for the Substack down below in the show notes. Now, for those of you that are, paying attention, you may also have noticed that we have got a new logo on today's episode and the overall show's image. And I just had to point it out. I had to mention it because it was created by a woman in my Stay or Go community who I have been mentioning a couple of times in recent episodes. She's helping me with marketing, social media, SEO, after hearing about my much needed pivot that I shared in episode 109 just a couple months ago. She reached out and she has been helping me massively. And I just want to vibe with you all for a moment about this logo because I love it. I love it. This was something that I didn't even think of. This hadn't even hit my register that we could do a logo update for the branding. And God, do I love her. She did so many other styles and iterations. I mean, I have seen a lot of different versions of what this could have been. And it was pure genius when she landed on this one. I don't know why I never thought of having a ring in my logo. I was like, oh, mind blown. So good. Just so awesome. And she's just been really, really helping me in so many ways. This has really been another just like example to me of how when we're open and vulnerable, when we kind of let our mask fall, we let people see behind sometimes, the facades we feel like, or not even that we feel like we have to do, but we just kind of fall into. And when we can admit that we need to change things up or we're needing help, that's when life can really send us people that get us. And that's what episode 109 has really showed me with some very wonderful women in my community reaching out and helping me behind the scenes. And it's been a really good reminder for me that as much as I have learned to do everything on my own, that there is actually beautiful, wonderful magic that gets created when we let people who love us and get our vision also come in and expand what we're building. Because I would never have thought to change this or have come up with this beautiful idea that she has. And it's been very exciting for me. We've had it in the works for a couple weeks now, and I knew I wanted to be able to talk about it and vibe with you guys before we dropped it. So today's the day that we're doing that, and I'm really excited. This is the new face going forward. Okay. With those fun updates shared, I am talking today on today's episode about something that I just have felt myself feel really, really excited about, especially in the last couple weeks, because in our community, we this year have been every couple months switching our topics. And we just went into our new topic for August and September, which is going to be regulation. And tracking back over this year, I mentioned kind of at the beginning of this year in my episodes how I was introducing a powerful new framework that I developed for my Stay or Go community this year. And it functions off of this idea of this core that we are focusing on, slowing down, really helping our foundation be strong. So in April and May, we started out with the first part of that framework, which was our C, and that was the holy, quiet kind of work of connection connection and anchoring in to who we are. And then in June and July, we moved into the O, which is orientation. And orientation for me really represented tools teaching them like how to pull out the map, clear the fog of their lives, start looking at the real data of what's happening so that they can see more clearly. Which, by the way, if you're listening to all of this and you're thinking right now, well, shit, I could really be using some anchoring into myself and clearing the fog in my own life right now, then get thyself to the community with me and the other fire women in there by texting Stay or Go Community, all one word, to 33777 and go catch up on this year's work. This is the first year I've left all of the content for this year open. All of the calls, everything we've been doing is open from this year, and you can go back and start working your way through it and then get ready to dive in and join with us, because here we are in August and September, stepping into regulation, and we're going to be focusing on stabilizing our nervous systems so that we can confidently say to ourselves, I feel steady. And why this is just like, like so yummy right now is because more so than ever at this point in my life, I have been at such a special, tender place in my own personal journey this year where I have really been deepening my understanding of just how foundational regulation and feeling physically safe inside our own bodies is. Like, y'all, I'm just, I'm like, so much of what I teach here, so much of the Coach I've become has been mirrored through the lens of my own process and my own journey. And I love watching myself. I talk about the spiral staircase and like these different levels of understanding and learning. Well, I'm definitely on a level right now where I see clearer than I ever have before the importance of feeling really deeply physically safe inside our own bodies. And for all of you listening, if you are navigating divorce discernment, if you are in a high conflict relationship with dynamics that are really destabilizing, many of you are going through identity shifts, many of you are deconstructing perhaps. What is happening when you are in the process of this is you are asking yourself to hold these massive life-altering questions while you're experiencing like deconstruction, reconstruction. And as much as all of that is happening, more and more, I want you to remember and understand this ultimate truth, which is that if your nervous system is chronically activated, making those big life moves you are wanting to make right now oftentimes will be simply too big of an ask. And that, just let that land, because I see so many of you that are shaming yourselves, judging yourselves. Why is it taking this long? Why can't I make a decision? Why can't I move forward? When you're asking yourself why, I want you to come back to regulation. Dysregulation in the body is what keeps working against you. When you are in survival mode, which is what I mean when I'm saying dysregulation, when you're in the high conflict of your relationship, your brain cannot access the long-term vision that you need. I mean, this is one of the things that I see the most when I work with my one-on-one clients in my deep dive coaching container. Check the links below. If you're like, yes, me, tell me more. What I see that I give these women is regulation. When we start getting on calls together, they know a lot of what's not working. They know kind of what they want to do, but they are like, I cannot seem to move out of this trapped feeling and the stuckness. And what my secure attachment does is it helps bring them down into more regulation. Okay. What I see often when we don't have that and when we are in the survival mode, all we can really access when we're that dysregulated is immediate escapes, which often look like buffering, which is something we're going to actually be talking about in the community. I'm doing a workshop on it this next week. Another reason to go join over there. But we often go to buffering, and buffering is where we, instead of being able to regulate, because we often don't understand the tools for that, we don't know how to do that, we go to overworking, overeating, we scroll, we drink, we distract ourselves from this feeling of, I just want to get out of my skin. And the other heartbreaking piece about that is that then many of us, we don't have the tools to regulate. We go escape in the only way we know how, which is through the buffering. And then we judge and shame ourselves. Like, what the fuck is wrong with me? Why do I drink so much? Why can't I get off my phone? Why am I overeating? Ooh, right? Is this not just like the cycle that so many of us as women live in constantly? Take a deep breath with me. Because this is not a you problem. So many of us internalize this as like a feeling on our own part. What this really comes back to is more of a gap. And this is something that Quinn always tells me, where she's like, it's just a gap in a skill that we need to develop. And the skill that we're needing to develop is how to help ourselves regulate, how to help ourselves go from being activated up into our sympathetic nervous system to coming back down into our parasympathetic. Now, what most of us, because we don't know how to do that, end up doing in our lives is we just end up treading water. Okay? We end up expending all of our vital energy just trying to keep our head above the surface. I talked about this today on one of our Weather of the Week calls in the community, where I was like, without regulation, and I'm doing, those of you watching the video, you can see I've got my hands like up underneath my chin, and I'm like, we are just trying to put out the next fire, just trying to not drown. And what that looks like is when you're constantly treading that water, you can't get your head up far enough to identify like, okay, where's the shore? And to start swimming towards the shore. You can't chart a new course. You can't evaluate your relationship with a calm mind. Stepping into a new identity feels completely overwhelming because you are just surviving the next wave right in front of you. And in a patriarchal world, what we have been taught is the way to handle this is to power the fuck through. Just hang in there, toughen up, suck it up. Why are you so weak, right? We really think that if we can just control more, tighten up, push through, we're going to get to the other side. Oh, let me once again say, this is not the way, my loves. What that ultimately does is continue keeping us exhausted and keeping us trapped in the exact same water and waves. Okay? Now, before I talk, because I am going to share just a couple of my favorite tools that I'm using right now that are helping me regulate, I want to ground with you a little bit into nervous system science. Okay? Because I think a lot of us, like I was saying earlier, we don't understand this about our bodies. We don't know how our nervous system works. Why is this not the stuff that's taught in school? Because a lot of the systems actually aren't built for us to thrive. They're built for us to be put back into the machine. And the machine makes money off of us, right? God, woken up to so much of that over the last 2 years. And then we shame ourselves, like I was saying earlier. We shame ourselves thinking there's something intrinsically wrong with us. Like I said in the title, oh, maybe I'm broken. Maybe my body's broken. Something is wrong with me. No, babes. I want to take a brief moment here to talk about what's actually happening inside our bodies when we are feeling activated, anxious, or overwhelmed. So I talk a lot in the community about nervous system regulation. I'm pretty sure I've talked about it here on the podcast, but in the community, especially because I just have so much exposure to my women in the community, we do like 1 to 2 calls every single week that are live with me. I talk about it extensively over there. But I realized that I haven't really taken the time to talk about what the nervous system is or how it functions. So I want to do that here with all of you now. And to keep it super simple, because I could probably do an entire episode on this all by itself, I want you to understand that your body has an internal control center called the autonomic nervous system. Let's break that down. Okay. The ANS, what the fuck is this? So, autonomic, I first want to explain what that word means. Autonomic basically just means it's automatic. Okay. It is the behind the scenes operating system in your body that is automatically running the essential functions that you don't have to consciously think about. And can we all just be like, whoa, as I list these things that you don't have to consciously think about? These are things like your heart rate, your breathing, your digestion, your body temperature, and how your body automatically responds to stress or perceived danger. Our bodies are incredible. It's moments like these where I'm like, oh, I don't actually have to, when I eat food, think through telling my body to digest it. I don't actually have to think, take a breath. Joe and I were watching a video today about dolphins, and the person shared that like dolphins do not have an automatic system for breathing. They actually have to consciously think, breathe, and then they breathe. I was like, oh my gosh, kill me now. If I had to think about breathing to breathe, right? Like, no. So amazing system that is running all of these different things in the background for us. Now, I want to break down the autonomic nervous system even further for y'all. Okay, so it's this system that's running all of these things behind the scenes, but it actually gets broken down into 3 different branches. The first branch is the sympathetic. The second is the parasympathetic, and then we have the enteric. Okay. I mentioned in passing, some of you may have caught it. I mentioned earlier where I was like, we need to move from the sympathetic down into the parasympathetic. Let's talk about what those are and how they're different. So the sympathetic branch of the autonomic nervous system is your body's built-in accelerator. Okay. And I'm obviously simplifying this because I don't want to get too deep into the weeds of the science. But I like to think of it as an accelerator. We are pushing the gas down. It is your fight or flight response. It mobilizes adrenaline. It gets you ready to act when you sense a threat or urgency. Contrasting that is the parasympathetic, where it is like your body's brake. And actually, if any of you have driven a Tesla, I love thinking about it that way. I am obsessed with Tesla's braking, like the way Tesla cars work, the brake and the gas pedal are the same thing. And so when you press the gas pedal down, the car accelerates, and all you have to do is lift off the gas pedal and it brakes. It's so wonderful. I am not going to go down the rabbit hole of how much I wanted to have one and now never will because of Elon Musk and my hatred for him over the last 2 years. But that aside, that's what I want you thinking of image-wise when we're thinking of the sympathetic and then the parasympathetic. So the sympathetic, we're pushing down the gas. As we let off that, we're dropping back into the parasympathetic. And this is the body moving into rest, restoration, and slowing the system down where we get into digestion, repair, and feeling safe in your body. I also think of, there's a woman in my community. She's amazing. I follow her on Substack, Rima. Go look at her. She's an amazing dietitian. In a recent podcast episode, she talked about how safety is a nutrient. And oof, that's what we're talking about with the parasympathetic. If we are always in gas, pushing it down all the time, go, what's going to happen to the car? It's going to burn out. Same thing with our bodies. We have to have that release, that break happening to move up into safety and to allow our body to digest, repair. Also, we have the enteric part of the autonomic nervous system, which I don't know a ton about, other than this is apparently the semi-autonomous network embedded in your gut. And as I read up more about it, it said that this is what many of us experience as our second brain or gut intuition. So I was like, gonna need to go do a deep dive on the enteric because that sounds amazing. Okay, so from here, right, Britta, why are you teaching me about the autonomic nervous system? Here's how I want you to think about what your lived experience of this system is like, which is that your autonomic nervous system is scanning your environment constantly and your relationships. And while it does that, it is asking one basic question, which is, am I safe right now or am I in danger? And based off of the answer that that system gets, we are going to experience this constant dance between the sympathetic accelerator and the parasympathetic brake. Okay? This is how incredible the systems of our mind, our body are, and all the stuff that's going on without us even realizing. Now, it would be easy to hear this and kind of fall into the common myth that I think we can get into in wellness and coaching spaces, that the goal of regulation is to live in a parasympathetic space 100% of the time, to be this permanently calm, zenned out creature. And as you guys know from listening to me on the podcast, I prefer to take much more of a holistic, whole body, balanced understanding of we need both of these parts of ourselves. Regulation is not about eradicating stress or never getting activated. Okay, that's just life. Welcome to being a human. Rather, when I'm talking about regulation, what I like to think of it as is that it is the flexibility. I think that's the best word. It's the flexibility to go into activation when life is calling for that. I know how to hit the gas and I know when to go when I need to go, but also having the physical tools and the internal capacity to come back down into the parasympathetic safety afterwards, rather than getting stuck in that perpetual hit the gas all the time. Which I feel as I'm saying this, I'm man, so many of you I know can relate to this. I know right now you're yeah, my gas pedal is to the floor and it feels like it's to the floor all the time. Looking back on my life, especially 7-8 years ago, when I was really, right before getting into the thick of considering divorce, man, was I just in a perpetual state of sympathetic nervous system activation. I didn't know how to come down into safety, into relief, into we're good. It's all good. And a lot of that came from a childhood where staying up in an activated, super hypervigilant state is what kept me safe. So know that for many of us, this is kind of the default mode we got trained on. And it's something that we have to relearn now in adulthood. One of the biggest things that's helped me recently in my own journey to, I guess, value the importance of dropping down and understanding that this is it's not optional. I think when we're younger, it can kind of be optional, right? We can get away with just pushing the gas pedal down, running ourselves hard, running off of all of those hormones. Boy, when you start to get into your, I just turned 38 this year, and I have started to feel some early signs that are leading to okay, we've got, premenopause on the horizon. Your body can't do that anymore. The strategy in the past of I will just power through, I will just push harder, it really starts to break down. And the abilities you had in the past to just ignore your body's signals, force yourself to endure the overstimulation doesn't work anymore. And you start to have, some pretty big breakdowns of, wow, I can't do this without there being a cost, right? Without me being really exhausted or irritable or not able to show up for the people I love or myself later because I overextended here. And thank goodness, thanks to my recent ADHD diagnosis, the beautiful work, this is kind of something that's been happening behind the scenes. My women in the community know a little bit about it, but I've been doing some also deep exploration about a potential odd HD diagnosis, which is an autism plus ADHD diagnosis that can happen for some women once you are diagnosed with ADHD and you get on ADHD medication, you may start to see these other parts of yourself come out. As I've been opening to exploring all of these parts and learning about myself, it has really helped me realize just how overstimulating, loud, intense, and go the fuck go our modern world is. And especially for those of us that are sensitive and deeply feeling creatures like me and so many of you that are listening to this podcast or those of you that I meet in the community, we cannot push ourselves to run at this speed, to keep taking in all of this content at this level without there being a cost. And the cost that I've been becoming much more aware of is just how much I get disconnected from myself. And then I end up just kind of robotically going through life. I may externally be presenting as I'm here. I may be, looking like I'm still present, but deep inside, I'm kind of lost on like, where am I in space? Where's my body? What's happening next? And in the past, I've realized now, like that's always been there for me. But in the past, I came at it from a direction of there's something wrong with me, get it together, power through. Where now I am moving into more of a space of, I think I might be a little dysregulated. I think I might be feeling a little overstimulated right now. How can I support myself in this moment rather than I shouldn't be feeling this? This should be fine. Why am I struggling? And y'all, when we make this shift, when we stop judging our activation, when we stop seeing dysregulation as a character flaw or something broken in us, that is when we can actually start meeting our bodies where they're at and giving them what they need through the tools that we can learn. There's so many amazing tools, by the way, for regulation, for somatic release. I've talked about some of them on the podcast last week with Jess. EFT tapping, huge. I'm going to talk about it in just a little bit, but I'm learning about so many more. That's when we start to be able to start really giving to ourselves the nurturing that in a lot of ways we didn't get in childhood because our parents just didn't know the tools themselves. And as I talked about in episode 113, God, that's so crazy saying 113. I can't believe we're like past 113 episodes, y'all. That's so crazy. But in episode 113, where I dove into like why you can't trust yourself, that lack of the secure attachment with your parents, when we're asking, how do we start healing that? A big piece of that is this. We didn't learn that secure attachment, that ability to regulate from our parents. So we get to start learning and giving that to ourselves now. And I want to finish out this episode by sharing just a few of the somatic tools that I'm using right now for regulation in my real life that I have just been like, these have got some real potent magic in them. And top of the list, coming off of last week's episode with Jess Johnson, is EFT tapping. Y'all, I loved in that episode when Jess talked about just putting her hand on some of those points, like when she's in a meeting and she's feeling the dysregulation and just giving herself, makes me so, it's just like beautiful, that little bit. I have been using tapping so much more since we recorded that episode and just hitting those pressure points. My favorite ones are like right on my cheeks. That one just always seems to get me right beneath my nose and my chin. It is just that little bit of like compassionate love coming towards myself. Tapping on those meridian points while just naming what is happening in my body is such a potent way to signal safety to it. And I love the ease of it. I love the simplicity of that framework that Jess gives us in the episode. So if you have not listened to that episode, definitely go back, listen to it. It was just last week. And also definitely go into the show notes. She has a workbook that we've linked in the show notes that you can sign up and get from her that I love. That was what I used before I even met her when I was first like checking her out because I knew I wanted to have somebody that would teach EFT in the community and talk about it here on the podcast. I just used her workbook to start. I love the simplicity of the setup statement and then just as you tap, just saying aloud, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm really scared about what could happen next. I'm wishing that things were different. There is something so powerful about just being with yourself in that space. Also, a little tip that I have that I found to be very helpful and I used a lot last year when I was first learning EFT was using AI to be a really supportive partner in the process. So sometimes you're so activated, you don't even, maybe you don't even have enough ability to like say what you're feeling in your body. Really helpful to type into Claude, I'm feeling overwhelmed. This just happened. Can you please give me a 5-minute EFT tapping script? Doesn't even have to be 5 minutes. It can be 3 minutes. It will give you a custom sequence right there that can help. I love when we can use AI to kind of make the transition a little bit smoother when we're learning these new techniques. I think I hear just from so many women how much being able to have that tarot guide that I've made with AI has helped them to then be able to start using the cards on their own. So I think this is a great way to use it as well. Now, another technique that any of you that have done a 90-minute session with me, where afterwards you get my amazing PDF with the roadmap that I've personalized for you and an entire list of all of my resources that I've used for 6 years now. It is like something that you can use not only going through your divorce, but forward on for years afterwards. You may have seen on that list where I have listed fascia work with Human Garage. I don't recall having mentioned it here on the podcast, but this is the second somatic tool that I've been using the most right now for regulation. And I won't go into the details too much of like what fascia is and all of that, because once again, whole other episode. But as I've learned more about fascia, I am someone who really does. I store so much physical tension in my fascia. And I've been learning much more how when I'm activated, my default is to go to like more of a paralyzed freeze mode. I want to get really still. I want to like isolate. I want to disassociate. And actually what I need is more of a physical discharge. That's why I've been so excited lately to like be really learning about regulation because yes, we can shift our thoughts, but there is amazing things that can happen when we start moving our body. Human Garage has like a free, I think when I first started with them, it was like a 28-day fascia reset. Oh, so amazing. Once you learn their basic, like, I think they have, it's like 1, 2, I think it's like 3 or 4 different little ways that you do it. I now have them memorized and I can just do it whenever I need it. I had some really big activation this last weekend, actually. And interestingly enough, not necessarily from anything negative, but from actually like a lot of positive. All of this good stuff I was experiencing, all of this like exciting, thrilling like parts of my life that I'd been really anticipating and excited about. And afterwards, I was like, oh, like my nervous system can't seem to kind of come down off the gas. It was a lot of fun gas, but I couldn't get back into the braking. I did some fascia work. It was such an awesome moment because Joe could tell. He was like, what do we need, baby? What do you need? Kind of helping me like drop in. I was like, you know what? I think I need to do some fascia. And he sat on the couch, looking at some stuff on his phone. And I was just, dropped in, moving my body. I love the way the fascia work, especially the way Human Garage does it. Like you're breathing. There's a lot of breath work involved. So we'll link that as well in the show notes. Highly recommend. Also, some others that aren't actually attached to like a specific tool or body of work that I've been loving and that actually I found recently with the help of Claude, because I went to Claude and was like, hey, I am noticing, I'm exploring ADHD and I'm thinking I need more somatic release and more pressure release in my body. What else could help me? Y'all, pushing against door frames. I never thought of this before, but the activation of holding onto a door frame, leaning your body up against it, and then pushing and holding it for like 5 seconds and then releasing, it does this thing where it engages your large muscle groups. And then when you release them, it's like a signal to your body. This has been life-changing for me recently. Just the like, even if you're just, maybe you're in bed, even I've done it in bed where I just like, I'm tensing up all my muscles and then I release. And then I do it again, like 5 to 7 times. Really can be a great reset for your brain. I've also noticed for me, shaking and jumping. So standing up and jumping while I'm shaking my hands can really help my body start to like, okay, we're good. It's all right. Especially when we have high activation moments with, if you're in a high conflict marriage at the moment, you need to shake that shit out. I also want to recommend, this is something I've really loved, is I just discovered this one recently too, like a week ago, being on my bed and shaking on my bed. The way the bed moves, it like allows your muscles and the fascia and everything inside you to kind of get that rhythm that seems to activate and move you into more of a parasympathetic reaction. The thing I want you guys to notice about all of these is that these are not fancy, high-tech hacks. These are just simple physical ways of helping your body go, ooh, reset. Okay, where am I located in space? We're safe now. It's okay. And as we do that more and more, bit by bit, as we intentionally slow down and actually send those signals to our body, what's going to happen, my loves, is that you start accessing the parasympathetic enough, your body starts getting quiet and like grounded and safe and regulated enough that you're able to hear the soul calls more clearly. And then as you're hearing those, you're able to start identifying, okay, what do I want to do next? And then from the parasympathetic, we're able to create plans and structures and the strategies for how to move forward and start moving through the being trapped and overwhelmed. And that is so big for all of you in the process of considering divorce. The things I hear the most is I feel trapped, I feel overwhelmed, and I feel stuck. That is not so much a mind shift as much as it is regulation in the body. Ultimately, I'll say it's you want to really shift out of those, I'd go to my core framework in the community because it's those 4 areas that I've got in the core. The core for me is these 4 different areas I've identified that I want you to focus on. It's connection to yourself and others. It's orientation, which is the mind work, knowing how my mind works and being able to see reality for what it is. It's the regulation we're about to drop into in the community of learning how to somatically move your body down into the parasympathetic. And at the end of the year, we're going to be landing in the beautiful final piece, which is the E, which is embodiment. And that's where stuff starts to get really fucking juicy and where life starts to give us back the meat and the juice and the just richness that is available to us. So if you are already in the community, this is the beautiful work you've been doing all year. But like I said, if you are not, we have got an incredible August and September lined up, and now is the time to join. We just put our second retreat on the calendar in a very magical opening. I just did not know if that was going to happen this year. So many women were asking me about it. And as you guys know, the first 6 months of this year, brutal for my nervous system, brutal for my work. But with the pivot happening in May, I've really just had some opening and some possibilities come through. And I've been very excited because this week I announced in the community, we've got our retreat picked. Our first one was last year. I really felt like it was an incredible success. getting to be in person. Another thing that's like beautiful for regulation is being around other humans that love you, being held, being hugged, getting to see them. So I've been very excited to have a whole new group of amazing women that have come to know and love each other virtually in the community and are now going to get to hang out with each other and with me all in person. So just know, like, this is what's available. This is getting to do the work in community. If that's something you're interested in, text Stay or Go Community, all one word, to 33777. I think we're going to have a pretty amazing group going right now. And hopefully we'll get to just continue to do retreats in the future. The beauty of the community is that women come in, they have these transformative experiences, and they really connect in with the group that is like their group. It's almost like high school, like the different women that come in. It's like you're a certain year, this is my 2026 group of women, and they are a very special, unique group. And I'm excited, to see what's going to come for the group of women that come through the end of 2026 and into 2027. So if that's you, if you've been considering that, I really want this episode to encourage you to go join the community. With all of that beautifully shared with you, the final piece I want to leave you on this episode is just pausing for a moment with me as we finish out and taking a deep breath with me. Maybe even drop your shoulders away from your ears a little bit, babe. Maybe wherever you are, get your feet on the ground. Okay? If you're driving, maybe you can feel your feet against the pedals. If you're walking, maybe you stop, feel your feet solidly against the ground. If you're in bed or your feet are up, stand up for a moment. And I want you to just press your feet into the floor beneath you. Maybe wiggle your toes. Maybe scrunch them up. Maybe feel that ground beneath you. And then I want you to place your hand over your heart if that feels good. Or you can put it over your stomach or maybe on your thighs, just a spot on your body where you can kind of hold yourself. And I want you to give yourself permission to move a little slower for the rest of today. You do not have to fix your whole life right now. Okay? That's not how we do this work. Instead, we offer ourselves a little bit of grounded care, bit by bit, right where we stand. If there's anything this work has taught me, my own journey, the journey with the women that I coach, the journey with the women in my community, it's that it is not a frantic fire, burn it all down, let's fucking go, as much as it is a, I've got you, let's do this kind of process. I love all of you so much, all of my listeners to the podcast. I just felt so much of your yummy, juicy, beautiful energy on this episode. It felt like I was speaking directly to you. So I hope to see some of you considering the community soon in there on our live calls this month, getting to do the work together. It is always such an incredible gift for me to go from, sharing this podcast just out into the ethers to every single moment I get to get on and look at the interviews that my assistant Alex does with potential community members. And I get to see you for the first time. I get to hear your story. I get to, if it's a fit, welcome you into this space and then really get to love you and see you there. It's just a really, really beautiful and magical experience that I am excited to welcome more of you into. Alrighty, loves. Sending you so much love, so much regulation over these next 2 months, and lots of steady ground. Till next week.